per year from a source independent of the government by a business that operates regardless of their actions or from their investments or both. So a little background, I was a boxer, joined the Navy because a recruiter told me I could box at boot camp. He lied. I ended up doing a lot of boxing. I was going to get out and turn pro, but nobody was really making any money at that time. And I volunteered as a lifeguard on the base in Pensacola, and a Navy SEAL and Navy diver putting us through our training. I was the only guy that could keep up with them. And the Navy diver tried to recruit me to be a diver. And I'm like, I don't want to be a diver. They're just underwater mechanics. I want to box. I want to go to the Navy boxing team. He's like, oh, go to the SEAL teams. They'll send you to the boxing teams. That's what I did. And I had to do it twice. I didn't make it the first time. I caught pneumonia in Hell Week. I made it through Hell Week, but I was hurting. I got dropped for performance. I went back to Pensacola, and my job was teaching boxing and physical fitness to Navy pilots and air crewmen. I went back to SEAL training in class 141, kicked butt in that class, and go into SEAL Team 4. I was in the Panama invasion, and I went to Panama for 3 years, ran air operations, and then I went to SEAL Team 1 my last 2 years, and I got out in '96, and then that's when I got into business. I was a mortgage loan officer, then I became a broker, did commercial lending, did construction lending, got into financial services. So, I've seen all different aspects of it. This illustration here is showing a illustration in a presentation from a company I used to work for, showing a debt roll-up strategy. So this guy's got almost $400,000 worth of debt. He's got $338,400 in a mortgage at 5% interest. Doing a debt roll-up, his total debt service is $2,782 a month. Adding $100 extra to that, and just paying his bills on time is going to get him out of debt in 17 and a half years instead of 30 years. Well, then I found out about this strategy called the pill method. So way they amortize a mortgage or any debt, you pay more interest up front than you do principal in the beginning. So you figure out how much that is. So in this case, that's $500 a month for this size of mortgage. If you add that extra, if you did this debt roll-up strategy and this pill method, adding $500 extra to the principal mid-month, 11 days after your due date. So if you're doing the first, you pay it on the 12th. You'll eliminate a whole month's worth of debt, over $1,600 worth of interest, and you'd actually pay it off in 12 years. I could never figure out how to get somebody completely out of debt, including their mortgage, without using consumer credit counseling or debt settlement strategies, which will ding your credit, in less than 10 years until now. Okay, so this is what you may have heard, the family banking strategies or infinite banking strategies. They're just a whole life policy. Change it. They call it a modified whole life policy. So they blend the whole life cash value with a term policy, and that way they get around the MEC restrictions, modified endowment contract, which is not legal to do. But if you add enough insurance, you can put more money in the policy. So it's a bucket of money that has tax deferred growth and tax advantage income when you take that money out. In what's called an awash loan. So in this case, this guy's contributing $2,573.90 a month into this policy. It's a $719,405 whole life policy with a $450,000 term rider. So by year 10, he's got enough money to pay off his mortgage. This is the same basic scenario we had with the debt roll-up, same numbers, right? And so he can pay off that whole mortgage, and then he's paying that his debt service amount straight into what he was paying to service debt. He's paying into his policy. So by year 20, he's got a paid off house and $488,227 cash balance in the policy. At the age of 73, he's got $1,009,367 income he can, money he can use as an income stream, not have to pay tax on that money. So that's what would be called the family banking strategy. It's how to pay off your mortgage faster. So you'd actually be able to pay off that mortgage in 10 years doing it this way. Now they have a proprietary software that probably could do it quicker, but they don't let you use that software for just doing a demonstration. So I just did this one on my own. Okay, so this shows what kind of house you could get under those terms: a $338,400 mortgage, at 72% loan to value. This is a house here in Cypress, Texas. Okay, and paying it, instead of paying it off, 7.461%, you'd actually have an effective interest rate of 3.54. Paying the same amount, paying the same $2,782 payment a month, you'd pay this off in 10 years instead of 30 years, paying the same by doing it this way. And this shows that once that's paid off, you could borrow $262,475 from the primary residence that you just paid off and buy a 4-unit here in Cypress, Texas, worth, value, listed at $1,049,900. All right. And then just do the same thing. Just pay the debt service into the policy, then borrow from the policy to pay the mortgages. You'd pay off the loan against the primary residence in 7.8 years, and then the remaining $787,425 mortgage on the 4-unit property in 9 years. Your estimated payment between the two mortgages is $6,000. You got you get on the primary residence, or the 4-unit is $6,000. You got an HOA of $1,300 a month, so it's $7,300. Your market rents are going to be around a little over $2,000 each, so times 4. So your net cash flow on the 4 units is going to be $1,000. But when you add in the payment for the loan on the primary residence, you're actually get out of pocket $821.50, but that's a lot less than you were paying $2,782 for the 20 years. Okay, that you would have been paying for 20 years. Okay, so that's how you could use this for real estate investing. Okay, now looking at this business hub strategy, and using the quick mount, I worked out these numbers here on a spreadsheet. So having starting off with $22,222 into a policy, and then paying the premiums. And I used a $400,000 or a $4 million policy for this, and I didn't blend it at all. I just used straight up whole life $4 million, and showing that after 7 years, you'd have over $4 million in your policy. Okay, not cash flow, but in the policy, actually an account, and that's showing buy-in franchises. Now you wouldn't want to compete. You wouldn't want to compete with yourself, so you wouldn't probably want to buy the same type of business, or you want to spread it out over different regions. Okay, but you can buy supporting businesses that support your business. So this is an idea thinking about the quick mount, Heroes Initiative. I talked to a guy from my church that used to be a producer in Hollywood, and I was telling him my idea, and he told me he knew a guy that was a producer, but he didn't make his money in video production. He did these cool videos, skydiving videos, you know, windsurfing videos, jet ski, and all that to market his energy drink. He made all his money on his energy drink, right? But there's all kinds of things you can do um, in this type of strategy, buying into businesses that support each other. Okay, so that is where conversation with you comes in. All right, and can you see the leverage using these family banking or infinite banking strategies to somebody can build out different franchises and franchises in businesses that support each other. You ever work on concepts like that?
Well, sure. There, I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? For some people, they don't want to buy one business or, take over a state or something like that. What they want to do is buy multiple businesses. And like you say, they're mutually supportive, right? Give you and there are companies that help you do that. There are companies that own multiple franchises, or they're master franchisors. That's not the exact technical term, but they may own a series of different home service brands like window washing, fence installation, those type of things. But then what they do is they have a common software backbone. Then they have common services like, every franchisee is going to use marketing. For example, they may have a in-house marketing solution. But the key thing is they have common business processes, so you're not relearning every time you're starting a new business. You're not relearning new business software or new business marketing, or you have the same resources. So yeah, I the short answer is yeah. I'm aware of many different examples in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up on a farm, right, and my my dad had we had cattle, sheep, hogs, and but he had 160 acres. We didn't have to buy grain. He grew hay for the cattle and the sheep, and then you had the corn and wheat and oats, and so we didn't have to buy grain. We were self-supportive, and then of course he could sell grain, he could sell, we sold the cattle, we sold hogs, we sold sheep, they sheared the sheep. There's all kinds of businesses within the farm.
Sure.
Okay, so this is not an uncommon. I mean, and then when you look at the turn of the last century, U.S. Steel came about because there was a group of steel producers that had different products. They had railroad ties, railroad cars, shipbuilding, barbed wire, telegram wire. They were all, I think automobiles were starting to come into development at that time, and they all wanted to compete against Carnegie Steel. And at a banquet in the honor of Charles Schwab, he got up and gave an impromptu speech of his new vision of distributing steel. And in the audience was J.P. Morgan, who was backing the other guys. And he's like, well, what they have together, and with their different steel products and distribution, and what Carnegie has with their steel production, we've got all that together. So he met with Schwab and got Schwab to broker the deal with Carnegie to become U.S. Steel, which was basically the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in the United States. So it's not a new idea. This whole concept of owning businesses that support the main business or support each other is nothing new. Now, right now, I'm in the process with this Cato Construction. They offer services to the oil and gas industry here in Texas, and they're standing up a apprenticeship program for the different trades. And then I got them together with TXRX Labs that they do advanced training in welding, CAD drawing, plasma, water jet cutting, that kind of those kind of trades that they need for this apprenticeship program. Okay, but we need they need people to go through the program, and I've been reaching out to different veterans organizations, here trying to get here in Houston, trying to get some guys, because they actually right off the bat they need cadre to teach, but they also need people that already have these advanced skills to do the work that they already have right out there, right? And so,
Pardon me.
but it's that mentality, the job mentality is people don't see outside that window, right? I mean, if you have those type of skills, when they had General Dynamics started blew up back in the 90s, right? They all those people that were working for General Dynamics that got laid off, they started their own companies and went right back to General Dynamics and contracted to them, but they contracted Northrop Grumman and different companies, doing the same thing that they were doing, making more money. I got a guy, one of my clients right now, he was making $56,000 a year in 2022. He has these acoustic sensors. They can find the cracks in fuel cells. And then he got called up by SpaceX. And so last year he made almost 1.3 million. He'll probably make 1.3 million this year, but next year he'll probably double that. Okay. And he was working for another company doing the same thing he's doing now, and he just went on his own, right? And he's not just dealing with clients from one source. He's got different sources. He's got Mexico now, and I think France is one of his clients, just blowing it up, being able to do that as his own business, right?
There's there's stories after stories. I think one of the misbeliefs or inaccurate beliefs is that success happens overnight, right? It's much more likely that it comes after periods of long hardship, periodic failures, and that sort of thing. And I think one of my sincere beliefs is, I've got a lot of sincere beliefs, but one thing is business ownership isn't for everybody. But for those who want to discover what business ownership means, there are a lot of resources out there. For those who want to try something different and aren't afraid of hard work, and over a period of time, I think success is I hate to say inevitable, but it's not unlikely. You just got to be willing to sacrifice and work hard. And and the other thing, and this is where I was going with the whole thing, is there's so many business opportunities right under your nose, doing, I mean, just very mundane things. I mean, pressure sensors seems pretty sexy and pretty exotic and that sort of thing, or looking for, cracks in fuel cells, that sort of thing. But the reality is he spent a lot of time in very dirty environments, trying to solder two wires together, in in difficult situation. And it's certainly, yeah, he may be working in a clean room now, or his business may be primarily in a clean room now, but it probably started with the solution to a very basic problem. And I look at, cleaning businesses are classic to me, right? Like, who wants to pick up other people's waste, for example? Well, people want to make money. I've got a friend who's a developer. You know how development market goes. At one point, he and his wife were cleaning model homes at 2 in the morning because they didn't want their friends to see them. That here's this multimillionaire who had lost everything in a downturn, and he was cleaning model homes. But now he's retired. I mean, he's multimillionaire again, and there's certainly money to support him during the downturn cleaning homes. But again, those that want to really invest in their futures, sometimes you got to go out and do things that are uncomfortable. Sometimes they may be right under your nose. But the key thing is you got to be willing to sacrifice and work, hard work. There's no shortcuts.
So with what you're saying, when I was boxing with Roy Jones Sr., he used to a lot of cliches he'd say all the time. And one of those would be like, when you learn things the hard way, those are lessons that stay with you the rest of your life. You never forget them.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem is when you learn it the hard way, it's the hard way. All you can do benefit from that hard lesson is to teach it to somebody else, because you already experienced the failure. The best thing to do is learn from somebody else's mistakes. Do you have so tell us about your what you're doing with the Veterans Franchise Council, and
Sure.
what it's about, and who can take advantage of it?
Sure. I was kind of, I don't know if people are watching this, but I'm kind of smiling. I had a doctor's appointment. I'm 60, right? And I'm starting to get some hearing loss. And she was explaining that, a lot of time people don't take care of themselves, especially when they're young. And I was taken back, and you can probably relate to this. I ran security operations for a country, and I trained people how to shoot guns. And I had 106 when he was he was a fighter pilot. He's a great guy, right? But he just started shooting before everybody had their hearing protection in and all that. And he wasn't going to let some measly lieutenant tell him what to do and what not to do. But I don't know if he's responsible for my hearing loss or not, but again, lessons learned, right? Here I am 6 years later. Boy, I wish I'd paid attention to those hearing conservation lectures I sat through. Anyways, so veterans, what I do, I mean, not to make a long story of it, but certain point in my life, I owned a business. I sold a majority interest in it. And the things I enjoyed about owning a business were I could really help people in a way. I joke, I joined the Navy to change the world, and it took me a few years before I figured I wasn't going to change anything. But fast forward, I'm in a position now where I can help people invest in businesses, identify businesses that make sense for them. And to your point is my mission is to help put veterans in business ownership positions. And the way I do that is a couple fold or a couple different ways. But one thing is I curate different opportunities, and I'm actually the part owner of a franchise where we're actively seeking veteran franchisees to the point where we're waiving franchise fees. So initial franchise fee is typically $49.5. It is for us. We waive that. So the reality is a franchisee, veteran franchisee can get into a business for under $50,000. There are many, many, many franchisors that offer discounts. I haven't met one that's as what's the word, as significant as ours, but you know, I'm always on the lookout for people that want to work with veterans, and I usually can find things for people that are interested or veterans specifically. To answer your question, I'm sorry, I kind of went on there, but
Well, you were telling me you have like over 300 different franchises, and you're not just limiting those opportunities to veterans, but you have some that are you get a special discount or special sweet deal because you're a veteran, right?
sure, yeah, and I apologize. Yeah, I represent probably close to 400 franchises now. They're actively seeking owners. Primarily franchises. I mean, there's some different business entities, probably 95% are franchises, and like I said, many of them are interested in working with veterans, and they incentivize that. There are a lot of good reasons for doing that, but frankly, if you have an interest in learning more about business ownership, I love those conversations. I like, Ruben, I sincerely love what I do. So I always pick up the phone with with the expectation that even if this isn't someone who ultimately invests in a business, it's my opportunity to make a friend or build a business contact, or fill in the blank. There's always that opportunity. So if you're interested in business, it's great. If you're a veteran, great. Love to have the conversation. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it takes to be a business owner. I think the capital requirements may be surprisingly, in some cases, surprisingly low. And again, it goes back to you willing to work, you willing to sacrifice, you willing to give up your comfortable lifestyle where you know what you're going to get paid, and you know what your how much vacation, and going to Dollywood, is it, or whatever you do for vacation on a yearly basis, or do you want to take a step off into the unknown?
Your story about the hearing loss. I got tinnitus in this ear. After I was in the Panama invasion, bullets missed me by inches, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, next time I get in a firefight, I want to be as far away as I can. I don't want anybody to see me. I'm going to sniper school.
Yeah.
So I was in sniper school, and I was a good artist, and I did really good, range observations and sketches. And so, my shooting buddy always wanted me to do it, but I was the one taking the shot. So I'm doing everything before the shot, right? Which I shouldn't have been. I should have just been, on the 50, and it's getting dusk, and I had to take the shot, and I got rushed on the shot, and I only found one earplug. So I had a round of 7.62 round in my ear, trying to use it as an earplug, and I shot 28 rounds of 50 cal, right? And I felt like my ear was bleeding, and it probably was, right? I ended up moving to Panama, and they put us in these cement, cement walls, high ceilings, hard floors, and I kept hearing this ringing sound. I'm walking all through the house trying to find out where this ringing sound's coming from, and I put my hand up to my ear, and it was my own ear. So I got tinnitus ringing in my ear all the time.
Ugh.
You know, the what when you're when I started getting into the finance world when I got out of the military. Started off as a debt management consultant, and every time I showed somebody how to get out of debt, they started looking at buying a house. So I got my real estate license, started doing mortgages, real estate, and started having to do things like I started doing commercial lending. And a lot of these guys, they knew their business. They knew how to make their product and sell their product. But when it came to the administrative side of it, they the first encounter, this guy was wanting to take a second mortgage on his house. He had aftermarket products for trucks, camper shells, things like that, and he wanted to buy some more inventory. So he's wanting to get a loan against his house to do that, and the underwriter was requiring a profit and loss, and he didn't. He was running everything through this personal account, and so I ended up having him giving me like it was 2 years worth of bank statements and going through line by line, which revenue coming in was from the business, which was from other sources, like your job, whatever, right? Okay, and which expenses were the business, which expenses were personal, and I actually helped him gin up the a profit and loss for himself, and got that loan funded for him, right? And I've had to do that multiple times, right? And so a lot of these strategies, when it comes to the financial side, a lot of guys know how to make money, right? But they don't know how to make that money work for them. Or they don't know, they know how to do what they're doing, but they don't duplicate themselves. A real business is a business that operates whether you show up to work or not.
Right.
It's a cash machine. That's what a real business is. What do you have to say about that?
Well, no, again, if you were watching, I was trying to get word in edgewise. I'm internally, I'm standing up and cheering. I mean, that's absolutely correct. And I think one of for me, and it's all about me, right? Yeah. But the one of the best thing about business ownership situations, you get to know yourself. You get to know what you're good at, and if you didn't know that before, you learn out very quickly. The other thing is you can decide to surround yourself. You can always decide. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner or not, but you decide who you surround yourself with. And as a business owner, you can hire for your weaknesses. In my case, I'm not especially financially cognizant or literate. I wouldn't say I'm especially. My wife would agree. She's an accountant. She's very good at that. But I choose to surround myself with people that are, and I choose myself to put people around me that have my interests at heart. So I think if I've done one thing, if I were to go back and criticize my business development, I wasn't as educated. I didn't take the time to educate myself up to the certain point where I could manage my financial, my bookkeeper, my accountant, that sort of thing effectively. And when you talk about, I mean, I think I do certain things really well, and I tend to focus on them, and I've put myself in a position where I can leverage those things. But I think generally most business people don't. They focus on the business and not in a way where they're leveraging things and assets, people, in a way that it generates business in like you say, in their absence, right? They build a house of cards. So if one key person, usually themselves, is not present, then the business does not continue too long. And frankly, that's, you know, there's more than one impact, right? Not only are you not building a self-sustaining business, but you're building a business that's not as valuable in the long run. Because eventually, at some point, you're either going to want to sell it, you're going to want to, you know, give it to a family member, or you're going to want to retire. And maybe that means hiring a general manager. But if you've built a business that doesn't stand on its own, you're not going to be doing any of those things. Or if you are, it's going to be at much lower value.
So you're talking about standing on its own. Actually, you got a manager and you got the good employees that do their job, and they know what they're doing, and it gets done whether you're there to stand over them or not. You know, in the SEAL teams, we had SOPs, standard operating procedures, right? And
Sure.
so, you know, when you learn those SOPs from the senior guys, they passed them down, and so you didn't have to relearn them all over again, right?
Right.
And you know, and I can understand, you know, I know that just the military, you know, the PQS, right? The plan
Yeah.
mate, right? I used to work on, before I was a Navy SEAL, I was a technician on,
System.
yeah, I used to work on flight simulators,
Yeah.
and we had a certain process. This is the schedule of what you're checking. You know, every night. I mean, that's what you did, and taking those readings, and you knew what that machine was doing all the time. And so I know from my military experience that process needs to be in place for whatever I'm doing.
Well, I mean, we're talking about large picture, just, or I was, but this is what excites me about the whole franchise world, and veterans. Okay, this is the crux of it right here. What you're buying with a franchise is, in addition to a bunch of different stuff, you're buying a system for making money. Okay, there are trademarks, there's intellectual property, there's all sorts of things you're buying, but in essence, you're buying a way to make money, and you're renting a way to make money. And the best franchises have a process manual. You know, McDonald's is probably, I don't represent McDonald's, so, but they're probably the most famous for that. I mean, they've got a process for buying straws, or, you know, they specify everything. And, you know, frankly, most people who own franchises or McDonald's franchises, they probably wouldn't say they're in the business of making food. They're in the business of making money, right? And most franchises are like that. And using the McDonald's example, how many unprofitable McDonald's do you suppose there are? I don't know the answer, but I'm guessing it's a very, very, very low percentage, because they have everything specified. There's SOPs for everything. I mean, military's famous. I mean, my experience was the exact same. You know, PQS, which stands for Personal Qualification System. We used to have messages. They're called EAMs, Emergency Action Messages, and hopefully I'm not giving anything up. This is from a long time ago, but basically, if we had to send a message quickly, it would all be formatted on a laminated sheet of paper with the blanks where you could fill in with a grease pencil, and you could just read it on the radio. That's, you know, I think, again, there are a couple things that are gonna really help you with a business. And I think, again, speaking to my specialty, which is franchises, is, you know, finding your leverage points and then templating everything, so you're not reinventing the wheel like you say, to your point, you know, you're not you're not retraining a receptionist every time she comes in. No, here's the book. Here's how you learn. Read this, and then I'll answer any questions. That's a heck of a lot of different proposition than here. Let me teach you how to use the cash register.
Yeah, I trained processors, loan processors, like when I was in the mortgage business, and I had this one lady. She was a real estate agent. She wanted, the market started turning, and she was looking at doing mortgages, and I'm showing her how to stack the file, do the duplicate file, and she's leafing through the paperwork like she was trying to unlock the secret to this loan, right? I'm like, okay, it's qualifying credit, it's qualifying income, it's enough reserve, high enough reserve requirements, it's loan to value and clear title. That's what you need. Then you got a loan,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, what's how hard is? I mean, and what I had to learn, I always thought I was dumb. I didn't think I was very smart. I didn't even, didn't really try in school because I didn't, what the heck, I'm a dummy, right? And I didn't realize I had a brain until, I took my ASVAB test to join the Navy, and they got all excited thinking, that I scored really high, and I thought I just had a smart pencil,
Yeah.
right? And they wanted me to be a nuke, and I didn't want to be a nuke. I didn't want to be a submarine. I wanted a box, right?
Yeah.
And and it wasn't until I got out of the military, I was a venture capital broker, and we were selling investments in affiliates all over the country for a TV station they were starting to form up for nonviolent educational television programming for children. There was government incentives to do that, made it more cost effective, right? And the guy that got in that he was an entrepreneur, started one of the news networks, and he said the average IQ in America is only about 100. And when I was tested in the third grade, they said I had a 138 IQ, right? And I didn't know what that number meant. So we looked it up I looked up in the Guinness Book of World Records. There's some Chinese guy with a 300 IQ. I thought, dang, I'm not even half.
Yeah.
Right. So I just thought I've done my whole life. Right. And then when I joined the Navy, they gave me the ASVAB test. My score was down to 133. I'm like, oh, I better quit drinking. I'm killing brain cells.
Yeah. No,
I'm 5 points less than I was when I was in the third grade. Right. And so this guy in the conference call says, the average IQ in America is only about 100. I'm like, how can that be? Mine's only 138, right?
Yeah.
My manager had to tell me that I wasn't dumb. Now, after I passed my California real estate license exam, my broker's license exam, after I passed the broker's license exam, I wasn't scared of the state bar after that. And then I got my Series 6, my life and health license, my Series 6, 63, my 65 license. And then now I'm pretty sure I know I'm a little smarter than I thought. But my problem is I'm used to thinking that everybody else, if I can understand it, they can understand it. And then that's I got to watch that. But I really appreciate you coming on, explaining what you do and the systems. Like if somebody, you can have I've been taught that you can either, put all your effort in what you have a passion in, all right, or you forget what your aptitude is, right? Or you find out what your aptitude is and put your passion behind that. Okay. And so it's not always the same thing. Okay. And there's people that are really good with the accounting. There's people that are really good with algebra, right? And I happen to be one of those guys that's really good with the what you call it, the contemporary mathematics. I'm real good with reasoning and statistics.
Can I tell you just a real quick story? So the first job I had when I got out of the Navy was a very, very high-tech company down in Silicon Valley, and there's a guy who had a poster in his cube, and it was a picture of the space shuttle, and it had a job description for the 20,000 people that are directly involved in a space launch. And it was real fine print, right? And I would take new engineers over there and I would say, tell me how many rocket scientists are on this. And because, at that time, it's probably still, the joke was, what are you, a rocket scientist? Like, that's like the smartest person in the world, like brain surgeon, right? And my point was if you could find a rocket scientist on there, there may have been one or two titles of rocket science, but the thing was 99.89% of those people were things like screw washers or design, switch plate designers or really kind of mundane things. And there's a job. Each one of those people got paid well for doing what they did, and that's the reality. There's only one pilot, but there's a whole crew on an airplane. There's only one, fill in the blank. There's still room for people that wash windows. There's still room for people that do mundane things, and there's great honor in work. There is no dishonorable work out there.
My OIC in Panama was Clifford Olson, and I first met him. He was in another platoon, and we were in the Persian Gulf on the barge Hercules, and they had these deflector plates out, a couple hundred yards, or about, I don't know, 400 yards on each corner of the barge to give it a large signature. So if the Iranians were shooting Silkworm missiles, that they wouldn't know exactly where the barge was. It'd be somewhere in that larger area, right? And so this chief asks, real well-known guy, one of the plank owners at SEAL Team 6, and he asked, how those works, and this officer explained exactly that, and he goes, "What are you, a rocket scientist?" And he thinks for a minute, goes, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am." and then we went to John Shaw's shooting school, and they did a demonstration on how effective hollow points were, right? So they had 2 buckets of jugs of water, and they shot one with a 45, big hole water comes out, one with a 9mm, little hole water comes out. Then they changed out the jugs, right? And then they put hollow points in the 45, shot it with 45, big hole water comes out. Shot it with the 9mm and blew it up. So later on that night, their platoon and our platoon were there, and my LPO goes, what is the muzzle velocity for a 9mm? And he goes, he spits it right out. He goes, "What are you, an MIT grad?" He thinks for a minute, goes, "As a matter of fact, I am." He's an aerospace engineer from MIT, right? And so we're in Panama, and that same chief was there, their platoon, our platoon, we're having a barbecue. And I'm like, I'm picking on him. And I go, you don't like to jump, you don't like to dive, you don't like to shoot, you don't like demo. What do you like? And then that chief goes, "But he's great at mission planning." And he was the best at mission planning, right? So it didn't matter if he liked to do the rest of the stuff. The rest of us that like to do all that other stuff, we just, follow his plan. And so back to saying that, I mean, it's like, if you can find the right people that love to do what you need to have done, and maybe you may not be the one with the big vision to see how it all comes together, but you can find that guy.
Exactly right.
Right?
Exactly right.
Right. And you want that guy running your business anyways, right?
Right.
Right. Right. So do you help find people like that? Do you help?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest part of my job is really understanding. I don't think I have a job. The biggest part of what I do is really understanding my clients and really understanding the businesses that I represent. So I put them together. There's some businesses, they require someone more with a sales bent than others. There are some businesses, they really need someone on the ground that can go out and make those connections in the community in which they live. Usually it's a combination, but some businesses need more technical people. And I represent a robotics franchise of all things. And yeah, you got to have a salesperson, a person that doesn't, dribble when they speak or, whatever. I, but you also need someone who understands software, understands technology, networking, those type of things. So there's all sorts of people now. As a business owner, it's helpful if you can take a step back, but it's more helpful that you can execute, that you can follow a plan and execute. Yeah.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, you know what, I'd like to have a friend. I'd like to be my own, be my own boss, right? Or have a business that makes money for me, whether I'm there or not. But I don't know what to get into. How would they get out? How would they reach you? How would they help? How would they get a hold of you to help them figure that out?
You know what? The best way is to either give me a call, 925 925-344-5981, or email me at Steve Taylor at the Franchise Consulting Company. I'm pretty visible on LinkedIn. But let me, can I have about 30 seconds? What I like to do there's a lot of
Yes.
self reflection. So the biggest part of my work up front with my clients, I say work, hopefully it's fun because I enjoy it, but is getting to know yourself, getting to know what your whys are. Why do you want to do this? Because if we can discover what that why is, then I can work backwards and make some effective solutions or suggestions. Just so you know, I don't charge for the service I offer. It's I get paid a finder's fee when I make referrals and people make investments. So there's no charge. The only thing I ask in return, I've got two rules. Number one, you got to be willing to invest 3 to 5 hours a week in the whole process. And the second thing is no ghosting. If you change your mind, let me know. And if you can live with those rules, I'd love to talk further.
Well, I joined the military because in 1979, when the
You are
Iranians
old.
took.
Yeah.
You just called me old. I'm a year older than you. All right. I got so upset that I'm like, I'm going in the military. I'm going to get some respect for this country. Now that sounds really, really naive, but there was enough of us that joined right around the same time. Those are the same guys that formed SEAL Team 6. You got Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, right? Then yeah, the wall came down. The Berlin Wall came down, right? The year after that, right? And then Nicaragua became a democracy. The war in El Salvador ended, right? We helped the Peruvians beat back the Sendero Luminoso, the communist guerrillas that had almost totally encircled Lima, Peru, right? All that happened on our watch. You and I were in there around the same time.
Right.
But there was enough of us that had, that had that same focus that were working on it at the same time. Roy Jones Jr. used to say in boxing, both guys are thinking they're going to kick the other guy's ass. The first guy that changes his mind loses, right? And if you get two people working on the same thing, it's going to happen, right? Well, that happens in a relationship. You got a husband and wife working on the same thing, odds are it's going to happen, right? If you got business enterprise, if everybody's on the same page, okay, working on the same thing, right, your odds of success are a lot greater. You got to get 880,000 people that are currently on, they may be older, right? But they got wisdom, right? They got knowledge. right? They could do something, all right, and they'll probably make more money than they will just collecting Social Security or their government pension or their, you know, their Navy retirement, right? Or
You-
disability. Oh my God, you talk to a guy that's 100% disability, and I'm like, I'm telling him this, and he's like, I don't want to get a job, right? I'm like, dude, you're the problem,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Can I tell you? I don't know how much time you have, but my mission, and I always bring this up with my clients. My mission doesn't matter if you think the country's going in the right direction or the wrong direction. My mission is to put 100,000 new business owners on the street, providing services, paying taxes, hiring people in the communities in which they live. And if we can do that, it's going to have a net positive impact on the country. I like to think of myself as a patriot. I would never, this is the first time I think I've ever said that, but I'm more about action. And if I can put 100,000 new business owners on the street, and what better people than veterans, right? But it doesn't have to be veterans. It's anybody who makes, this isn't just about personal wealth. This is about being a net benefit to society, to being a strong, contributing American citizen. Um, you know, Someone famous recalls, and I may be totally mangling this, so I apologize in advance, but the business of America is a business. And what that means to me is there's a budding entrepreneur in nearly all of us. And, sometimes that gets nurtured and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. But we need to reignite that spirit. I don't think we need to reignite it. We need to nurture that spirit. It's already burning, sometimes more brightly. You don't have to be an Elon Musk. Let me tell you that right now. You don't need to be an Elon Musk. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You need to be a hard worker that's willing to look at things in a different way, be brave, courageous, and take a step out. I can get deep into the philosophy of that if you like, but I don't think we have 3 hours. But that's what we need in America, frankly. And people like you, Ruben, coming up with new ways to finance things, or rejiggering old ways. That's very entrepreneurial. That's a net benefit. That's giving people tools to achieve things greater than themselves. That's replacing a disability income, or those. It's giving tools to people who are bogged down by a mortgage that they don't want to spend until they're 90. Work until they're 90 to pay it off. I mean, that's wonderful. To me, that's very American. That's very entrepreneurial, and ultimately patriotic. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now.
tell you. Okay, so so on my website, MyBusinessIsYourBusiness.info.
Yes.
Okay, so you found the link to the, to the podcast. Okay, that'll be replaced by the video of this on YouTube. Okay.
Cool.
But I'll send you also after I download it, and I'll send you the link to YouTube so you can have this to promote all you want, right? But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm doing more for our country, doing what I'm doing right now, and having a greater impact than I did as a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And then right now we're like, statistically, and you can look it up anyway, those statistics I showed you, I got from Chat GPT and Metro AI. Those we got 6 years and we're out of money, right?
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing that Congress can do about it, right? You got Matthew Gaetz, the congressman from Florida. if a Republican tries to increase spending, they're out. He gets them out. That's how he got McCarthy out, right? Because he caved, right? But that still isn't going to slow it down. This is the only thing, 880,000 Americans that are living on, government income, got to have a business or investments or a combination of both that are giving them a sustainable income of $50,000 a year, and we can save our economic system. Okay, but
it's not an insurmountable number. It's not, and it takes people like you and me, not chipping away at it, I mean, it's not insurmountable. It's like eating an elephant, right? I think I learned this from a SEAL. How do you eat an elephant? Well, you start one forkful at a time, and we build our tribe, right? I didn't. The thing is, I said I thought I was going to change the world in the Navy, and I didn't change anything. And but as a business owner, I changed lives. I fed people during the, pardon me. I fed people during the economic downturn. I hired people out of jail that were down on their luck. I was able to do things that as a Navy officer, no way. Especially as 03, right? One of my goals when I started my business is I wanted a case of beer in my fridge, because I'd never been able to keep alcohol at my, not that I'm a huge drinker, but I just thought that was a marker of success. If I could have alcohol in the thing was, I never, it stayed for months and months. I don't think I drank that case of beer over 6 months. I think I ended up taking a couple 6-packs home, because I was putting so much time at work, but not working, right? Because it was so much fun. It was for me. It was for my family. But no, I'm sorry. I could go on and on, Ruben.
Well, look, we'll have you on again.
Yeah, I'll talk as long as you want me to.
All right. So I'll have a link to, or I'll put your banner up. And
Okay.
is there a website that I could put a link to?
Yeah, I wonder what the best one would be. There's Bravo Zulu. There's I don't have a personal one. You can use the FCC. Let me send you one.
All
How's
right,
that?
that's perfect. All right,
Yeah.
man. I really appreciate. This is the best podcast right now, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,